I don't think I can get much of a house or front yard at all. No deck. I've only got 75 feet between the front of the drain field and the right-of-way of the street. You have to stay 5 feet off the drain field for any building. So you take that into account. I'm not quite sure what the front yard setback is from the street. We haven't discussed that, and I hadn't discussed that with the planning department, but normally it's around 25 feet. I'm not sure about there. So if you take all that off, that only leaves you with 40 feet of spot to put a house. If I set the house behind the septic tank, I'm outside of zoning, but I've got 40, 70 feet between the back of the septic tank and the edge of the 360 mark. If I set the house behind the septic tank, it gives me enough room for a little bit of front yard and parking, a house, and a deck. That's my case.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Any questions from the board for Mr. Hendricks? Is there anyone here who would like to speak in support of Mr. Hendricks's application? Anyone here like to speak in opposition? I think your hand was up first.
Come state your name and address, and then you can do your handouts. Just go to the podium, state your name and address, and then you
Yeah,
can do your handouts.
Yeah, the microphone, because it's being recorded. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Jessica Carter, and I live at 912 Lakewood Drive, Prosperity, South Carolina, 29127. Can I hand these to you?
Certainly. Give me your name again.
Jessica Carter, it's like T's and
Mr. Chairman, we can't hear her.
She's passing around some handouts, Ms. Coleman,
Okay, thank you.
and I'll, it's quite entailed and detailed, it looks like.
Thank you.
Miss Bridget would need one, please. We should.
Okay, Ms. Tarter, give us about 5 minutes. You can go ahead.
So, so the packet that I just gave has specific information. The first portion of it is the realtor information sheet. And the realtor information sheet does show that this property does not park via DHAP. It is actually in the description by the real estate agent that we've been getting from Mr. Hendricks has been incorrect. Most of the information that he supplies is just not correct. If you gave him the variance, you would be in violation of state regulations 61 through 56 of the South Carolina on-site wastewater system. Allowing the relief would violate the specific regulations pertaining to driving and parking within 5 feet of the linear septic system, and in addition, it would violate the South Carolina Code of Law 16-11-510. By allowing him to have the setback, you would be requiring him to go ahead and build closer to the lake, whereby he would continually drive over the septic system. He has already violated that. He continually drives over it. He's put his driveway over it. And if you built, he'd have to go ahead and continually drive just to go ahead and build the house. So the house has to be located behind the septic system, and it has to at least have the 92-foot setback. There are communication letters with the state indicating the current violation and a drainage issue. In addition, there is a letter that is specifically says, again, you have to be very careful with what Mr. Hendricks says because it's incorrect. There's a letter from the state that says they don't care where he puts the house. They're not requiring him to put the house where he wants to put it. He can put the house anywhere he wants to. They just tell him where to put the septic system.
Okay, Ms. Tarter. I think we got the gist of it, and we've got your package in front of us that we'll review.
Right. There's also a 13-page petition by the Lakewood community with 100% disagreement with the relief of the setback. There were 38 people that sided with the property being considered as non-buildable, and there's 32 people that disagreed with the relief of the setback. And there is nobody in our community that would like to see him build up by the lake because he would wind up contaminating our water and contaminating the lake, and he has disregard for the people in his community.
Okay, thank you. Next person in opposition, I saw two more hands.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good
Good
afternoon.
evening. My name is Mike Johnson. I live at 1080 Lakewood Drive, Prosperity. And just want to state a few facts here. The lady was right. When this lot was listed for sale, I'm quite sure that the real estate agent did her homework. She said that the lot was not buildable. It didn't have a dock permit, which was true, and it does not perk via DHEC. I'm pretty sure she went to DHEC before she listed this lot and said that you can build a house on it, you can't build a house on it. And I say that because they listed a house for $39,900. Anybody that lives on the lake knows if you can build a house on the lot, and there's a lot there, that lot's gonna be worth more than $39,900. So I'm quite sure that this lady did her homework when she told that in the public remarks, not the private remarks, but the public remarks that everybody can see that says this lot is not buildable. I'm not for or against anybody in Newberry County. I'm here not to say anything that's fair. I'm here to make sure things are done right, because fair's got nothing to do with it. So that's my statement on that. Just the facts. It was not built, the listing said it wasn't buildable. The variances are excessive. And this is another problem I have. If we grant this variances for this lot, how many of these are we gonna do in the rest of the county? And Lakewood Drive, just like the rest of the places on the lake, we start building places like this on the lake next to houses that are worth $500,000, $1 million, it's going to deplete their value. I got nothing against the man building a house, but we got to do it right and got to do it where we can build a house. Lo and behold, just like me, when I do stuff around my house, everybody needs to do research. Obviously, that wasn't done. There was a lot of misjustice done here to everybody, the seller, the buyer, the whole 9 yards. And the fact that those septic systems were granted by DHEC in close proximity to other places, I don't know how in the world that happened, because I'm pretty sure, once again, that Ms. Spahn, when she listed this place, she did her homework to find out that you couldn't do it, or she would have listed that property for a lot more than $39,900. as the young lady said, we got a petition out that people signed, said they don't want this to happen. And I tell you, this is excessive. It's extremely excessive, and it shouldn't be granted.
Okay.
Okay.
Any questions for Mr. Johnson from the board?
I'm open to questions. I talk better when I have questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Johnson. Next person in opposition, I saw one more hand up.
Wayne Fritz is my name. I'm a resident of Kings Grant, and I'm here to support my neighbor. I have right here the original sales of the property in Blacksgate Estates. It's 59 years old, dated April 1962. The origins of the neighborhood go back that no building shall be erected or maintained unless it's a private residence, and a garage or maintained must conform in appearance. No part of said should be used for commercial manufacturing present. No residential building shall be erected or maintained on any lot by Blacksgate Estates having a ground floor of less than 750 square feet, including porch. No building shall be erected and maintained on Blacksgate Estate closer than 35 feet from the front line nor closer than 10 feet from the back or sidelines. No outside toilet or privy shall be erected and maintained. No animals, birds, yada, yada. Building exteriors must be a brick, frame, rock, or block construction and wood block. The placing of house trailers, regardless of size of facility, shall not be permitted in Blacksgate Estates. Easements are reserved along, and these conditions shall be binding upon all owners and lots in Blacksgate Estates and their heirs and assigns, and may be enforced by Blacksgate Estates Inc. or property owners by the injunction of all. This seems to me, sir.
Let me interrupt you, Phil.
Sir?
Second, Mr. Fritz. Is this homeowners association regulation?
It was, and it still is.
It was and it still is.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We are not formal at this point, but my neighbors and I know me and I know them, and we have talks all the time about the viability of our neighborhood and the maintenance of a quality
Now,
neighborhood.
when you say you're not formal, explain that.
We don't have regular meetings.
Okay.
I know that there are other people here in Morris,
Is that HOA regulation recorded at the courthouse?
I don't know. I bought my property 16 years ago, and my wife worked at the predecessor, BB&T Bank, which had bought Lexington State Bank, and this was in Lexington State Bank's presence, and so we have them now. I do know at one point, there are two neighborhoods on Lakewood Drive. The first 7/10 of the mile as you enter Lakewood Drive are not in Blacksgate Estates. It's once you round the bend that you enter into Blacksgate Estates. And it was attended, there was going to be an airport out there. Yes, on the property, off where Outback Drive is. They had big plans for this, but I can tell you, our neighbors are galvanized in maintaining the quality of our street. And from the sound of this, and I've been around, I used to work at the Department of Commerce for 25 years, and we never built or had a property built on something that wasn't engineered out first. And this sounds, I had to go through the same gyrations he did to get my septic tank. But you know what? I did it in the beginning and had it all lined out. This sounds like somebody's trying to shoehorn a house on a piece of property that's not ready to fly. So.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Fritz from the board?
I don't know if this is for him or for the gentleman who's wanting to.
I'm gonna get back to him.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
okay. Anyone else in opposition? Mr. Hendricks, would you like some time to rebut? Give us about 5 minutes as well.
Okay.
But let me ask you a question first. Are you aware of these HOA regulations?
First I've heard of them. I would like to know whether they have an expiration date on it. Most HOA regulations do.
whatever we do tonight, if anything, will not supersede a homeowners association regulation. It wouldn't be a bad idea to research that before we go any farther.
Okay. Everybody's
You-
wondering,
Let me tell you,
okay,
the case I was involved in years ago. A guy put a double-wide manufactured on a piece of property below where I live. He didn't research the HOA regulations. He ended up in court, and it took a couple of years, but he moved it. He had to move it. He was facing criminal charges. I suggest you explore that before you go any farther.
well, if you'll provide me with a copy of it, I'll
I feel
explore it
sure
right
they'll
now.
do that.
As far as the septic tank issue, I investigated this issue before I signed a contract on this lot. Nobody had ever attempted to put a septic tank on this lot. Nobody had ever contacted DHEC or had attempted to have it perked. They assumed, because of the shape of the lot and the slope of the lot, that it couldn't be done. Everybody assumed that, and everybody told me that. Nobody actually investigated this. That's why nobody bought the lot.
Have you got DHEC approval for a septic?
I put it in and it's been approved by DHEC. I have got the permit to operate. It was done by their standards, strictly by their standards. That's permit to construct. I've given them a copy of permit to operate.
Is that it, Ms. Works? Is that it?
That's the permit to construct. But it has been inspected by DHEC.
Okay. We don't have any governing over DHEC's permits anyway.
Right.
Any questions? You had a question,
I did.
Mr. Lister.
As I understand, DHEC will approve some type of an engineered septic system on a piece of property that ordinarily doesn't perk. But you're saying yours does perk? and the
It does
restriction-
perk, and it had
But
a
it's restricted to the
regular.
location of where you put the house.
That's
Is that
right,
correct?
because the only place they would allow the septic tank and drain field to be installed was right in the middle of the lot. That's it.
My next question has to do with the size of the house. The DHEC permit says it's a 30 by 40,
That's,
but there's another document in here that's saying it's 28 by 32.
yeah, I've cut the size down because they're only gonna allow me to put a one-bedroom house on this lot. That's all I want anyway. I'm not trying to build a big mansion on this lot. That's a 900 square foot house. That's what I want to put on the lot.
Yeah.
If I'd have wanted to put a huge house on a lot, I wouldn't even attempted to buy this lot. I did a lot of research before I made an offer on this lot, and I took a big chance paying what I did, because I didn't know whether it was gonna perk or not. That's the difference in the price I paid for the lot, and I think a lot of people think that I backed into it. I took a $40,000 chance on this lot without having a DHEC permit. I don't know what that's worth to y'all, but, I mean, would you spend $40,000 on a quarter-acre lot that you're not sure you're gonna be able to build on? That's what you have to do now to get a lakefront lot on Lake Murray without coming up with $250,000. I did the research and I took a chance. Some people don't like it that it worked out. It could have been the other way around.
I think you should have researched a little farther with the HOA.
Maybe so, but by what he read me from that HOA, this house will fit in those guidelines.
Okay. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Hendricks.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Metz.
case one, kind of case, we got two cases here that kind of combined
That's right.
together. And I just want to know how we kind of want to handle the situation, because.
I'll answer that.
I know one by one.
I'll answer that when, we see how this first one's gonna go.
Okay, then.
All right, the board now closes this case to the public. And the chair would entertain a motion, but before you make a motion, if there is a motion, I'm gonna ask you to state your reason for the motion, either for or against. Chair would entertain a motion. I don't like to leave it hanging out there. You with us, Ms. Coleman? Ty?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Did you hear all of that?
Yes, I did.
Mr. Chairman, this is Ty, and I heard it as well.
Okay.
May I ask another question?
Go ahead.
So there's an existing septic tank system. Is that septic system already in place?
Already installed it and approved.
You installed it? You had it installed?
It was not existing.
Pardon?
It's a brand-new septic system.
But it is installed?
It is installed.
It's in place?
Yes.
Okay.
It's in place for a
Yeah.
kind of building.
The chair would entertain a motion. Now, we can't have any more public comment. Chair would entertain a motion for or against.
How are we gonna do
Yes.
We're gonna go down each one, but if we don't have a motion, we can't entertain that at all.
Okay, excuse me, sir.
Hearing no motion, the application fails.
Mr. Chairman, we still need to answer those 5 questions.
True. And I'll read those 5 questions. I trust y'all have already read them. The board is required to consider the following factors for section 153.052A through F and 153.168 of the zoning ordinance. They are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to a particular piece of property. These conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity or in that district. Because of these conditions, the application of the ordinance to a particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict use of the property. The authorization of the variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property or the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance, and the effect of the variance will not allow the establishment of a use not otherwise permitted in the zoning district, will not extend physically a non-conforming use of the land, will not change the zoning district boundaries shown on the official zoning map. Also, 153.168 setback from lake shore. See zoning ordinance page 111. And again, I may have gotten ahead of myself. After hearing that, the chair would entertain a motion.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, this is Ty Ransdell speaking. Hey, for discussion wise, and hearing all of the information we received, both from the property owner and from those that are opposing the building project here. I mean, our goal is here and to review the information that you just cited on those 5 key areas. You know, we don't have any governing guidance or anything like that with those, the HOA, or if the HOA does in fact exist or does not exist. So we don't really pertain to anything to that. Our decision here is what we're looking at is just basically the variance on the setback.
Correct.
So I guess with that being said, and for the fellow board members, taking a look at those 5 key areas that Mr. Chairman just read off to us, based on that information, does that help enlighten anyone's decision as trying to make a motion, either a yay or a nay?
I don't hear any down here, Mr. Ransdale. Would you consider making a motion? Again, I don't hear a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Hitt.
I guess, is the amount of information we have been given on this regarding the DHEC permit, and it says system grandfathered into the old setbacks, 50-foot setback from wells and 360 contour are acceptable. I'm reading this, I'm reading Exhibit F.
Dated 4/26/21.
You see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right there, yes. That's, but I know we got some other stuff that she passed too.
Yeah, but that was,
Nine, is that 9 or 4, wherever?
I say that's a 4.
4. It don't look like to me. A 4.
I guess, is this the legitimate, this is the real permit given on, is that 9/26/21? Is that the way you read it?
That is correct. This is the permit to construct from DHEC.
And where did this asterisk system grandfathered into old setbacks, 50-foot setback from well and
That
3?
came back from the, DHEC gentleman that signed it blue.
Okay.
That's saying that the system is using the old setbacks from wells, and the 360 contour, but that's for the placement of the tank in the ground, not the house.
Yeah, I understand. Okay. All right. And what we're talking about, what we're asking for this is the setback to be 20 feet.
He's asking to be, instead of the 92-foot setback from the 360, he's wanting to be 42 foot from the
A
360.
50-foot there. We have no say-so on the setback.
No.
I've just gotta get my wrapped around. So basically, if he is willing, there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions to this piece of property.
Absolutely.
Where DX, excuse me, permitted the septic. And these conditions evidently do not generally apply to other properties in the vicinity. There's a number of places that have it. And if the home potential builder is willing to live with the liability of a reduced setback,
How about item 4 there? Judge Hitt.
I'm making mistakes to pass on. If these are truly within the marks, if this is placed The house has nothing to do with the septic tank. And no one has said anything negative about the house. And the effect of the variance would not allow establishment of use otherwise permitted, so he couldn't build the house without this variance request.
Correct.
Now, I assume, I hate to assume that the variance is granted with these guidelines, he's gonna have to get this septic tank checked and well put in. So, with that information, I move that we grant the variance of 50 feet, based just on the location of the house. That's all this board was asked to do with the information.
That's correct. Motion's been made to grant the variance by Judge Hip. Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman, this is Ty, and I'll second that.
Seconded by Mr. Ransdale. Any more discussion? All in favor signify with the uplifted hand.
See, Ms. Case,
Ms. Coleman?
Ty's not on,
Yeah, well, he may, yeah,
okay.
we know how he stands. The variance has been approved unanimously. That took some work. No, man. Mr. Hendricks, just let me say that you still got to deal with the HOA. I got a feeling you're gonna be hearing from them. Okay?
It's against the law. You are breaking the law. You are breaking the state law if you give him that variance.
All right, I'm gonna give you a little time to speak. Explain that, because I'd like to know where you're coming from.
The state regulations.
You've got to come to, you've got to come to the podium.
If you gave him the variance, you would be breaking the law.
Explain.
The way they created the permit, they put the septic system in the center of the property. For him to go ahead and access the house, build the house, go to the boat dock, access that property, he's got to drive over his septic system.
Ms. Tarver, if it's on the moon, we can't do anything about it.
He's putting his driveway over the septic system. He is going to malfunction, and he is going to contaminate our water and the lake. It is against the law. It's against the state code and to put it there because he's got to go ahead. It's an existing system, and he's going to drive over it. He has to have a 5-foot distance from that part. So he's not allowed to go over that at all. So you can't give him the variance. It's against the law.
We have given him the variance. He has 30 days before he can start construction. You also have a 30-day period, or anybody else in this room, to appeal our decision.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hendricks, do you want to continue with the next item of business?
Absolutely.
All right. Case number VAO 2-04-05-22, a variance request for the relief of the average of the 92-foot setback from the 360 contour of Lake Murray to be 12 feet for the placement of a new 20 by 20 open-sided shed. The property is located at 922 Lakewood Drive, Prosperity, South Carolina, tax map number 477-2-17. Ms. Kate.
The variance request is asking for the relief of the 92-foot setback from the 360 contour of Lake Murray to be 12 feet from the 360 contour for the placement of a new 20 by 20 open-sided shed. Due to the location of the house, the shed cannot be placed within the required Newberry County setbacks.
Mr. Hendricks, you're up again for about 3 minutes.
All I'm asking for is just to build a covered deck between the house and the lake. That's it.
The building, I'm a little hard of hearing, I
Oh,
apologize.
okay, I'm sorry. Just to build a deck with a cover
deck,
in
okay.
between the house and the lake. And that's all I'm asking for.
Any questions of Mr. Hendricks?
It's not attached to the house?
No. The lot is very steep. If I was to attach the deck to the house, it would be extremely high off the ground, and it's just really not what I want to do. It's better off to separate it, sit it down from the house. Probably, if I put a 20-foot deck on the back of that house with it set like I want to behind the septic tank, it'd probably be 10 to 15 feet off the ground to the back end of the deck. It's just, yeah, I'd just as soon detach it from the house.
Will it have any obstructive view for your neighbors looking through a covered shed?
7
Lake
foot.
views are extremely important to property
Yes, they
owners.
are.
And so, you know, if you're gonna build a deck with some kind of a roof structure on it,
It would be below the house. I mean, the roof structure is gonna be below the house I put, so if I set it down, it's gonna be lower than if I actually put the deck on the house.
Any more questions for Mr. Hendricks? I'll get to you. All right, thank you, Mr. Hendricks.
Thank you.
Anyone here speaking in support, in favor of this application? Anyone speaking in opposition? Come on back, Mr. Harvey. Give us about 5 minutes of opposition.
So first of all, I am a little confused because he said deck, and what I read is that he's looking for a 20 by 20 pole shed. So again, I am confused because there's confusion on his part on what he even asked for. And he's not asking for a deck, he's asking for a shed, a pole shed, 20 by 20. That's the size of my house.
He is asking for a shed.
That's the paperwork we have.
He is asking for a shed.
Yes, sir. So again, I'm confused, first of all, because if you look on his permit, and you put his operating permit back in, he showed his driveway stopping in front of the septic system. So he lied when he said that his driveway was going to stop before the septic system. So he's going to continually, whether he's putting a shed down there or a house down there, he's going to continually keep driving over his septic system, which is against the law. And not only is it a state law, but it's a felony. Because it's going to be malicious, because he's breaking the law, and he knows he's breaking the law, but he'll continue to do it. And if he gets a shed down there, he's going to continue driving over that septic system so he can get to his shed, get to his house, build the shed, keep driving over it, and he's going to contaminate our water.
You know, what I said earlier, we do not supersede HOA regulations.
Understood, but the way that the state said this, and there's a letter in there, they don't specify where you put the house. So he can put the house up by the street, and there's no reason to give him the setback, because he can build his house right up next to the street. He's got 88 feet, and that's in his operating permit. So there would have been no reason to give him the setback.
Okay, we're hashing old stuff that we.
I realize that, but again, there's so much misinformation that he said. First of all, my understanding is that the covenant is at the courthouse. Yes, the state did find that there was a perk test that was done, and it did not pass, and they didn't find out until I called them and said that that it didn't perk, because when I called the state, they were looking for permits that had been declined, and that one was left open. They never closed it, so when he did a search, he didn't see it. So again, I'm telling you, there are huge issues right now, and the driving over it is going to make this terrible. It's already leaking, it's already taking water, and it's draining down onto my property. It's a mess, and he is the person that constructed it and did the work himself, and he did not do a decent job. He is not licensed, and it is not done properly.
Okay, I believe you, but we've already acted on it, and we're not gonna change. We
But
can't.
I understand that, but I'm good, but, so, this
But-
still applies, the regulation. He's still breaking the law, and he doesn't even know what he's asking for, which is kind of confusing.
Okay, take it up. Get your HOA. I mean,
You also have 32 people that, in the neighborhood, that's telling you that it will be an eyesore, it will change our visibility, and we won't be able to see, and we don't support it.
okay, I understand. I've given you more time.
Sorry, okay, thank you.
Chairman,
But,
is she
yeah.
saying this pole building's gonna interfere with you, or are you talking about the house?
Yes, it's going to interview both of them.
Well,
But I mean, we're
Both
talking
the
about
house and the pole, because he's taking up all of the lake. All of us are set back, and he wants just to put his house up and ruin everybody's property. And that's really been some of the issues that we've had.
okay. Mr. Hendricks, she's right and we're right. You applied for a shed, not a deck.
I had asked him for a deck with a top on it, and that's what the lady there wrote into the, application.
I mean, it's got a covered roof.
Yeah, just a deck with a roof on
It says pole
it. That's what
building,
I'd asked.
shed.
Not anything to park under, anything like that, just a deck with a roof.
So we heard he was going to bring his camper in and park his camper underneath.
No.
Yes, that's what he told somebody.
You can't have the back and forth.
Yeah, we can't do that.
Sorry,
Please
would you like me to
take
sit
your
down?
seat. Please take your seat. An 80-foot, you're requesting an 80-foot variance to be 12 feet from the 360 contour of Lake Murray for a 20 by 20 open-sided shed. Am I reading that correctly?
I mean, can you come to the podium and
I
explain?
can. I was told, excuse me, I'm sorry. I was told that because it had a cover, that it was considered an open-sided shed instead of just a deck.
In Newberry County zoning, a deck has no cover. So that's why we put it in there as a covered shed, because it does have a cover, a roof. In zoning terms, a deck does not have a roof.
Right.
I use the terminology gazebo, but that's not in the,
I think there's too much confusion on this issue here to proceed.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask a question.
Go ahead.
Do you have any future intentions of enclosing this?
absolutely
shed?
not, absolutely not.
Okay.
The chair determines that there's too much conflicting information here to proceed with this application.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hendricks.
Mr. Chairman, we have to have a motion to determine why we're not gonna move forward for legal rights. I mean, your reason can be not enough information, but we need a motion
I thought the chair had the authority to disqualify an application, but I could be wrong.
Well, Mr.
But I'll
Chairman,
call for a motion,
Mr.
that's no
Chairman.
problem, yes.
based on the ambiguity of the, was stated by the applicant and was on our paperwork, I move that we not proceed with this variance.
Motion's been made to not proceed. Is there a second?
And second.
Second.
Mr. Ransdale, are you with us?
I'm with you right here, and I would have given it a second as well, because to me, an open-sided shed is a pole barn.
Multiple seconds, Ms. Bridget. I'm not sure who made the first one. Doug made the motion. Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Unanimous. Does that satisfy Ms. Katie?
That's what we needed.
Okay. Thank you, Doug. Next item of business, case number VA 03-04-05-22. A variance request for the relief of the average of the 56-foot setback from the 360 contour of Lake Murray to be 8 feet for the placement of a new site-built house. The property is located at 74 Belle Isle Lane, Prosperity, South Carolina. Tax map number 655-1-130. Miss Katie, you're up again.
The applicant at 74 Belle Isle Lane is asking for a variance request for the relief of the 56-foot setback from the 360 contour of Lake Murray to be 8 foot from the 360 contour for the placement of a new site-built house. Due to the topography and the required size of the home, it will not fit into the required setbacks.
Thank you. Is there anyone here representing this case tonight? Yes, ma'am.
Hey, I'm Stephanie Berquist. I'm a representative of the builder Epic Homes and a realtor in South Carolina, and I'm going to give y'all some documents as well.
Give me your last name again.
Berquist, B like boy, E-R-Q-U-I-S-T.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Are you representing Epic Homes?
Sir?
Are you representing Epic Homes?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right, so forgive me, I am catching up on this project sort of at the end. So I am representative of Epic Homes. We also have somebody else here just in case I need to rely on him. But I want to go over some of these things in y'all's packet that sort of help explain the situation. So really, we hear a lot of people wanting to move the house towards the home. We're actually trying to move it away from the lake, the lake. We are looking to place the home 18 feet from the roadway, where we have been told that there is a 25-foot setback from the road to where the home needs to be placed.
I'm gonna stop you for a
Yes,
second.
ma'am.
I had to break the application into two, so this first one, we're talking about the lake setback.
Oh, okay. Well, that's great. I actually don't know anything about that. So do you have something to say about the lake setback? I'll trade you.
She was on the second case.
All right.
Okay.
Gentleman, J.J. Nettles, Epic Homes.
I'm sorry, give me your name again.
J.J., 2 J's, Nettles, N-E-T-T-L-E-S.
The last name again?
Nettles, N-E-T-T-L-E-S.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. So, for the variance from the lakeside, Katie, you're talking about a 7-foot for off the corner to the house? Or is that, what is the, So, all right, so we've got a square house we're trying to put on a triangle lot. There was a house here before that burned down, so we've excavated all the footings and the pad out where the home was before. And we're going back with a little bit longer house, so you can see the property cuts in, where it cuts in at that first point, and it shoots towards the dock. The heated square foot of the house is 15 foot from there. I mean, it's a good bit. You got the outside porch is like 12 foot wide, but what I've done is there's a new one that's gonna be, it's not in this, but I've had the architect actually place it on the plat, so you can see it now, where that corner of the porch actually clips over, that property line that cuts in like that is actually a retainer wall. It's about a 4-foot retainer wall, so that's actually lake. But it's not, I mean, the lake's 3 foot down. So what I had the architect do is go and clip the corner of the porch 6 foot to keep us off of there.
Can I make a comment on that right quick? If y'all go to the last page in your packet,
Yes,
it
ma'am.
addresses this and shows you where that corner's been pushed.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, that's some of my, amazing artwork. So, yeah, we've had the architect actually put it on there. So it's showing it, I had the surveyor put the house on there. Then I had my architect come back and clip the porch 6 foot to get it off that corner. But the heated square foot of the house is on that corner, it's closest to it. It's gotta be 10 plus foot. What is the setback from the?
That,
It's required 56, you're asking to be 8 foot.
It's required to be what?
You're asking to be 8 foot
But-
instead of 56, required is 56.
Setback from the lake.
Yes.
I mean, there's no way that house that was there before could have been 56 foot, because I'm
lot
basically,
builds it too.
I'm basically in the same footprint.
It cannot, this would have to be granted a variance because the original house has been going longer than 6 months. So we have to look at this case as a brand new
As a
case.
new case, right.
So there, I mean, this house is relatively sitting in the exact same footprint. What I'm having to do is it's longer. So I need 20 more foot really going towards the road. That's why we're asking, that's gonna be in the next one, which is the 18-foot variance to the roadside. But, I mean, there's no way, and the lot's only, 50 foot wide, 60 foot wide. I mean, there's,
Okay, any questions for Mr. Nettles? From the board?
Is this a house that's already, is it a spec house or is it someone,
No,
private
sir.
owner that's built?
Miss Flag is a custom construction closed loan. We've already got it closed. It's done just, well, on our end it is at this point, unless we have to go back and start doing something different with the house. Yes, sir, it's a construction loan, not a spec house. And we've already, like I said, we've already removed all the footers, the pad where the house was before, basically filled that whole piece of property up. We're just a little bit longer going on a bit, but I have not started any construction. I've just got my silt fence up, it's excavated out, and I did not dig it towards the road. I left the dirt there because it sits about this high up going towards the road, so I cut it down and we're basically just a little more than what it was. But the footprint of the house per se on the lot where it's at is basically almost the same. And the porch is 12 foot wide, so I mean, the porch is what's, the house jets in to go along kind of with the property as far as the heated square foot.
Mr. Nettles, is this in the Plantation Point subdivision?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Does the Plantation Point subdivision have homeowners association rules and regulations?
Yes, sir.
Have you got their blessing?
We were waiting to see if you guys would give a variance before we went down that road, but there is another house in the cul-de-sac that's 19 foot from the road. already. So that's kind of what I was hoping. I mean, somebody's already granted that before.
But we're not talking road now, we're talking lake now, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay,
all
so
right.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
so, I'm sorry. So, yes, sir. So,
Don't confuse us. It's
yes, sir,
easy.
I know, I'm sorry. So,
It's too easy.
so yes, sir, so the lakeside is, yeah, I mean, that's 15 foot from the corner of the house. The porch, the pier porch itself is 7 foot, but the house heated square foot's more
Well,
than
as I
15.
stated the last case that was in here, if we approve it, HOA doesn't, you're nowhere.
Well, the house was the same place that the other house
That
was for the
doesn't
HOA.
matter.
So I don't know, we gotta go back, but I don't think the HOA has not had any problems with it. I think we've already put everything as far as the house goes before the HOA, everything's approved. We're just trying to move it towards the
Well,
road.
now, that's not what you said when I asked you
Is that
initially.
not correct? Okay, I apologize, my bad. So, obviously, if the opposition would like to speak on their behalf of what the setback is
I'll
for the
give them
lake
a-
part, then
I'm gonna give them a chance.
I would like to hear that too, so,
Okay, all right, thank you.
because we're not trying to block anything, that's, we're trying to get further back.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Are you-
Turns out I do know a little something about that. Y'all just caught me off guard. Okay, this might just help y'all out. I'm an organizational person, so I gave you a packet. So so you can see and make a clear decision. So if you go to page 4 in your packet, they're all in the same order. The title on top is Proposed 74 Belle Isle, and you'll see that kind of survey. But it's an actual CAD drawn one, not the hand-drawn one. You'll actually see where the rear deck, there's a line drawn where we capped that rear deck to be in the setback line, just so that you have something to reference. And then if you go to page 8, which is the last page in your packet, that is the blueprints of the home. Again, it's titled Proposed 74 Belle Isle, and it says clipped rear porch to fit setbacks. So I just want to give you a clear picture. Page 4 and page 8 reference this. I apologize, I didn't realize we split them up into 2.
Okay, thank you.
I can clarify one other thing as well, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
You had asked, and only because this is my duty, if it was approved through the HOA. As a licensed realtor of a decade here in South Carolina, we have submitted everything to the HOA. There is no approval yet. A lot of that is contingent upon what happens here. So there is no HOA approval yet. We cannot start construction until it happens, but I just wanted to clarify that. Again, a lot of that's contingent upon what happens here. Does that help everybody?
Any questions from Ms.
Berquist.
Berkowitz?
On the last page, it says clip rear porch to fit into the setback.
Yes, sir.
Even, it doesn't fit into the current setbacks, does it?
It does. If you go on to page 4 with that clipped plan, as opposed to it being,
I thought they were asking for like an 8-foot setback as opposed to 56 feet.
well, excuse me, so you're inside what the original footprint is saying, what JJ was saying.
Okay, so, but it doesn't fit within the current setback.
I apologize. That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm just clarifying on that.
All right. You got a question, Judge?
No,
Hill?
sir,
Okay.
no, sir, I'm just,
Okay, thank you.
well, I guess my only question now is, what is the true request variance?
The required setback for this piece of property is 56 foot from the 360. They are asking to be 8 foot instead of 56 from the 360.
Okay, anyone here in opposition to this request? Do I see, yeah, I see somebody.
Good evening, Jennifer Nichols. I'm a local attorney. I've been contacted by 7 of the property owners along Belle Isle Drive. There's 8, from what I understand, and some vacant lots. We've been contacted by several of them regarding this zoning request. And I understand we're taking the first one, correct, from the lake.
Yes.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's what we're dealing with.
I just wanted to make sure I understood that. From what I understand, it's going to reduce that setback by 48 foot, puts it in there, could potentially obstruct views of the other landowners that are already built on there, and I don't know if that variance, I'd have to see the plats and everything to see if the variance would fit within the rules that they have, that it has to be a certain distance when there's development on each side. First to point out, it has been submitted, I believe, to the ARC, but has not been approved, and so therefore it has not been taken to the actual board even for approval. And that is part of the requirements within the covenants of Plantation Points, is that it has to be approved. And in Plantation Point, if you're not familiar with it, when that development was planned, they had everything platted out. There were footprints of the house that were put on plats that said this is basically where you can build within. And it reached the variances or the setbacks, I think by the county and by the HOA. And these obviously do not. I think the other adjoining landowners are just concerned by granting the variance. We've looked at the ordinance code that you put up earlier where you have the 5 points as to, the things that you have to consider. And I don't really know that this would fit the hardship, and if you bear with me, I'll get to my notes where I have that. I'm not real sure that it would fit, it would fit into the hardship because, they're building the house this size of this shape. They can still build, it just doesn't have to be necessarily this large. And I apologize. Here's what I'm looking for. These other property owners in here have all complied, maybe with a minor variance here or there, but have all complied with the general restrictions that were initially input in there. They have built within the setback. I know one of the homeowners had, the requirement was a 30-foot setback from the road, and they've all built within those setbacks that were required initially. There's only been a few that have been granted some minor variances here and there due to it, but these are pretty significant variances that are being done. From what I understand, the new plan of the house is not anywhere close to where the old footprint is, because the old house that burned and everything, it had some variances, but nowhere close to the severity of the requests that are being made. You have some substantial detriment that could be to the adjacent property owners' views. As you mentioned earlier in the previous case, that lake view's it's pretty important for those people on the lake, and this could potentially obstruct their view, being 7 feet, basically, as they've stated, from the 360. It's not going to effectively prohibit them or unreasonably restricted the use of the property. It's zoned residential. They can still build a residence there. It just may not be to the scale in which they were planning. And I think that's probably about all the time I have.
Any questions for Ms. Nichols from the board? Thank you,
Thank you.
Ms. Nichols. Anyone else speaking in opposition?
Good evening. My name is Bob Enos. I'm the chairman of the HOA board at Plantation Points. Before any of our projects are started, we have a procedure in place. We have an architectural chairman and an architectural committee. Our bylaws have been in effect, I think, since 1988. They are on record, and we try to hold very strictly to our guidelines and our bylaws. In this particular case, there was a home, was built, I believe, about 18 years ago on this site. It burned about 8 years ago or so. So it is possible to get a home onto that site within the guidelines, okay? In this particular case, and I have to apologize, today, this morning, is the first I heard about this case. Our architectural chairman and committee had already told the lot buyers that the plan that they had submitted originally was not going to fit under Newberry County guidelines, and that they needed to come here to discuss whether or not they could get a variance. After they got a variance, if you would grant it, it would have to come back to us, and we would then take that plan to the HOA board, and the entire board would review it and see whether it would fall underneath our guidelines. That has not been done. So at this point in time, we cannot recommend moving forward with a variance. We would ask you not to grant one. We really need to take a look at what they're planning on doing in front of the whole board. As far as we're concerned, what they're planning on doing would be too large for the property, could affect home values. We don't have any guidelines. We've only heard from, I believe, 2 of the homeowners on either side of this lot. We need to do a lot more homework on our side before we could even consider it, and we would ask you to postpone this.
Any questions from Mr. Enos?
And I have my architectural committee chairperson here if you'd like to ask her detailed questions. I was not part of the original plot. Every one of our pieces of property, when they were sold 20, 30 years ago, all had a plot. Every single one of them had a plan as to where those homes would fit so that they would fit into Newberry County guidelines. Okay, this one is a lot larger and a lot closer to the lake.
Any questions? Yes, sir.
Do you know what on the original house, the house that burned, do you know what the setback was from the 360 contour on that?
Again, I apologize. I don't know. That's something that we'd like to take a look at. We haven't even had a chance to do that.
Does anybody know?
Do you know?
How would you know?
We'd have to look, we'd have to go back in the records and look it
But I would
up.
like you to understand as well, HOA will supersede
Anything we do.
anything we do.
Right.
So that-
We kind of like
We
for that.
understand and appreciate what you're saying. And, I mean, Mr. Chairman has stated several times tonight.
We kind of like to have the HOA approval or disapproval first.
Okay?
Y'all would rather have our approval first, or so it seems. Or disapproval, as the case may be. Any more questions for Mr. Enos?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any more to speak in opposition? Hearing none, the case is now closed to the public. And before we go any further, before we make any decisions, the board is required to consider the following factors per section 052A through F and 168 of the zoning ordinance. 153.052C 1 through 5, there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to a particular piece of property. These conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity or in that district. Because of these conditions, the application of the ordinance to a particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict use of the property. The authorization of the variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property or the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance. And the effect of the variance would not allow the establishment of a use not otherwise permitted in the zoning district, would not extend physically in non-conforming use of the land, would not change the zoning district boundaries shown on the official zoning maps, also setback from the lake shore as provided in 153-168, setback from the lake shore. The chair would entertain a motion.
I need, before I can answer or do that, Ms. Katie, is it out of order to ask Ms. Katie?
I don't think it is. Ms. Katie?
On our Exhibit C, looking at, this is lot 655-1-130, there is a 72 on 131, there's a 56 on 130, and there's a 40 on 129.
So for Newberry County, the way we average our Lake Murray setback is we take the distance from the closest point of the neighboring houses to the 360, add those together, and then divide by 2. So if you're standing at the lake, the house to the right is 72 foot, house to the left, which is around the corner, is 40, so the average is 56. That's how we get the 56-foot setback.
That's what those numbers stand.
That's correct.
Thank you, ma'am.
Does that answer you?
Yes, it answers my question.
Any more questions or discussion? Ms. Coleman, Mr. Ty, y'all with us?
Right here.
All right.
Yes. I am present.
Okay, I see you. The chair would entertain a motion.
I move that the variance not be granted.
For what reason?
Part 4, substantial detriment adjacent property of the public good. I think if we're reducing the setback by that much, we are creating, 1, a bad precedent, and 2, I think it's going to detrimentally affect neighboring property owners.
Mr. Chairman, can I?
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
No, I'm sorry, no. The motion's been made to deny by Judge Lister. Is there a second? The motion fails for lack of a second. Is there any other motions? Hearing none, the request, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I do second that motion.
We have obtained a second from Judge Hipp. Is there any more discussion?
And my reasoning is the authorization of the variance, it will be a substantial detriment, and it is extreme liability.
The same objection as Mr. Lister stated in item number 4,
Yes,
the
sir.
variance approval criteria. Motion's been made and second. Is there any more discussion? All in favor to deny this request signify with the uplifted hand, please. Ms. Coleman, you have an uplifted hand, right?
See your finger.
Yes.
Ty,
Yes, sir.
how do you vote?
I vote with an uplifted hand.
Okay. All opposed signify with the uplifted hand. 1 in opposition, the motion carries to deny.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I'm coming in to join you for the final ones.
okay. How far away are you?
I'm in the conference room.
Oh, okay. I was gonna impose a break. Yeah. Welcome.
A little tricky doing that by Zoom.
Yeah, we couldn't see you, we see Ms. Coleman. Next item of business. Case number VA 05-04-05-22, a variance request for a 17-foot front yard setback for a new 30-foot by 60-foot pole building. The property is located at 87 Owl Club Lane, Prosperity, South Carolina, tax map number I'm sorry, I did skip over. I skipped over you again. Case number VA 04-04-05-22. A variance request for a 18-foot front yard setback for a new site-built house. The property is located at 74 Belle Isle Lane, Prosperity, South Carolina. 655-1-130. Do you want to proceed with this?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Katie?
The applicant is requesting a 7-foot variance from the 25-foot front yard setback for the placement of a new site-built house to be 18 foot from the road right-of-way due to the size of the home.
Thank you, Ms. Katie. Okay, you're up again, if you desire.
So gentlemen, I apologize for that. I wasn't, I apologize to you, Katie. Obviously, I did not catch that part of the 56-foot variance. So we'll just move on past that. So what we were trying to do is get the house, to fit in there, again, on this, triangle piece of property. If you look at your paperwork that you have, you can see where it actually nestles in the cove there. The one picture that has the porta potty and the traco on it shows you the only house that's next to it. We sit back behind it, the lake is here. The little triangle piece of property comes into the cul-de-sac. There's only one house across the street on this little piece of property for Belle Isle. Actually has a different setback from the road, if I'm not mistaken, because the road's smaller. I think there's a little difference for Belle Isle in that road for the setback because it's a smaller road. So we're trying to, again, get the houses a little bit longer. We're trying to push it up forward to the road to 18 foot. There is a house, and the reason I was trying to come before you guys before putting it before the HOA, and I apologize for that as well. We're trying to kind of get this worked out before we even tried to go down that rabbit hole. But the 134 is 2 houses down in a cul-de-sac on Belle Isle. The garage front is 19 foot from the cul-de-sac curve. So we were hoping that if somebody had approved that variance once before, that we would have the same. And again, this property is in the it's like in a little cove there. Where as you come across, it's like a little bridge coming down Belle Isle. There's only one house right across from us. There's the one house to the left. There's only, 8 houses on Belle Isle. So again, we're looking to go 18 foot from the road to be able to get it to work on the property, but I'd have to get back, I guess we'd have to squeeze the house back in further, of course. If we got the 18 foot to the road, then I can still try to get the house in there if I'm gonna have to work still with some kind of variance, because the property's only 56 foot. Hell, it's only that wide. I mean, the footprint of the house is almost, if you look at the plat, if you look here, you can see where the porta potty is again. You can see the driveway coming in off of Belle Isle. That comes right up to where the garage previously was on the last house. And it'll be exactly where our garage is. If you look at the plat, you can see where that driveway comes in. And there's that line comes around, it comes out to a little point. That's the old footprint up under our footprint of the house. So, and I guess I'll get with you, tomorrow and ask you what I need to do as far as trying to get whatever I can get for somewhere for 56 foot is definitely not going to be. I don't know.
Okay.
So if I can get closer to the road, I guess we can try to squeeze the house more
Okay.
to make it work with the variance of what we get from the setback from the lake.
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else in support?
I just like to wrap everything up in a nice little bow. I just want to say for the record, I'm similar to this gentleman who spoke. I also had very little time to wrap my head around this, and I don't necessarily agree or disagree with anybody in this room. I appreciate the experience. It's knowledge for everybody. Unfortunately, the homeowner was not able to be here, and we were asked to come and sort of relay this information to everybody. So we're not, against anybody or anything. So that's just what I'm here to do, is relay information that I have. Again, just to sort of, these go hand in hand. So since the other was denied, we have to bring the house up in order to make it fit. So if both aren't approved, we have to go back to the drawing board. And I understand that. I will say, from a real estate standpoint, I have a copy of the deed, and there's nothing on the recorded deed in deed restrictions or on the recorded plat in Newberry County that states any of these setbacks. Now, as somebody who typically does a lot of work in Lexington County, there may be an unknown or unwritten Newberry County setback. But again, from a legal standpoint and from a real estate standpoint, these were all new numbers to me. And again, I have the recorded plat and I have the recorded deed. So that was very interesting to me. We're also aware that we need HOA approval either prior or after this. So we understand all of this. This is just information for us to have to move forward. Again, this is the home that we were contracted to build for this client. And these are variances that we need to do so. If these are variances are not achievable, then obviously we need to go back to the drawing board. These are things that we cannot change. Again, to JJ's point, and again, page 1 in y'all's packet actually addresses this. There is past precedent, one of y'all mentioned that earlier, of a home that has 19 feet from the roadway to the corner of the home. So that is already an approved variance. So we were looking for 18 feet. So we were hoping, again, the variance was granted in the past. But again, this only works if we have the variance on all sides. So I just wanted to clarify that and let everyone know where we stand.
And to clarify a question or a statement that you just made, the setbacks are, as Ms. Wertz, right, it's on a case-by-case basis on the existing structures that are already there. That's why you don't see it.
So that's an interesting point. So in my perspective, when we went under contract with us, and I review the deed, and I review the HOA requirements, which I did prior to contract, and I reviewed the deed restrictions, which there were none specifically noted, and there is none on the bonded recorded plat. That would lead me to believe that as long as, we're within property lines, there was nothing for us to go off. This is the first time that this has come up. So again, that's the documentation I have, the deed, the plat, and the HOA requirements. That there's no verbiage in that. You're shaking your head no. Maybe there is.
Newberry County doesn't require setbacks on the approved plat.
Right. So again, information, but there would be nothing for us to go off of. So this is the home that we have been contracted to build on a lot. Based off of my knowledge, not living in the community, it's very comparable to what was there before. Again, this is just my information, so y'all can do with that what you will. But again, I don't agree or disagree with anybody in this room. I'm just here to relay information and how we came to these legal decisions, and based off of what past precedent there was, this is what supports us putting this home there, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Berkowitz.
Yes, sir.
Any questions from Ms. Berkowitz? Thank you. Is there anyone here speaking in opposition to this request? I see a hand. Come on up.
And thank you, Stephanie, too, for pointing that out, because the homeowners aren't, trying to keep anybody from building on it. These are just some concerns that they have when they got the notice and, how it could affect their property. I think they would like to see another neighbor come in there. Once again, Jennifer Nichols, representing some of the property owners along Belle Isle. Same objections would be here, is that this seems to be a pretty substantial variance request from I think most of the property owners in there are 30. I think there have been some with 25. And if you look at this Exhibit C, you can actually kind of see where the footprint of the previous house was from the road. I know there's not measurements there, but I think if you look at it, you may have to use your readers like I have to be able to see things, but I think you can see the outline. And if you look at some of the other properties around in there, you kind of see that the front or the roadsides of their houses are almost all within a certain plane of each other, and that was how the community was developed. In the cul-de-sac, I believe the one that they're talking about is 19, is a little bit closer to 25 feet. The road's been paved, so we think it's kind of expanded a little bit depending on where they're taking the measurements from. But if you were to just take out the curve of the road, that would be where some of your footage is in that variance for that particular property. I think it's 130, it ends in tax map number 134. Some of the concerns in here really go to subsection 4 under the 153.052, is that it could be a substantial detriment to the other property owners. They purchased or built homes in this community based upon what the restrictions were, and then to have someone come in with such a larger substantial variance could be detrimental to their property. Being on the roadside, there's a homeowner here that has a special needs son for physical disabilities. So there's always a concern when the kids are playing in the yard, the parent who is disabled may have some difficulty with getting to them and being able to see a little bit better than other people. And there may be some concerns about obstructing the view coming down Belle Isle from that way. Sorry, I don't have a directional map to tell you if it's east or west, but coming from, I think, the Little Bridge area that was referenced earlier. But the overall objection is more to the aesthetics, how the neighborhood was designed, that people purchased these lots or these homes in this neighborhood. They knew of the restrictions and did it for these certain reasons to protect their property value. And they wanted to be in a more master-built subdivision.
Okay.
And I think there's a few other ones. Thank you.
Any questions from Ms. Nichols? Thank you. I'll give you a couple minutes to respond if you like. No? Okay. Any more opposition? Anyone else speaking in? I see a hand again.
Yes, sir. Good evening. I'm Tori Rockwell. I live if you're facing the lot that they're requesting the variance, I live directly to the left of it. I've been there for 22 years. The address is 98 Belle Isle Lane. And to give you a little bit background of myself, I was a licensed unlimited general contractor, a developer, also in charge of a the covenants as well as the architectural review. And like I said, I've been there 22 years, and we really appreciate the neighbors. The neighbors that are trying to move in, they're wonderful. The house is wonderful. It's just simply too big. As far as setbacks, the required setback, and I'm going to show you my plot. When we built out there, and I know things have changed since then, the required setback is a minimum, and when I say setback, I'm going to property line and not necessarily to the edge of the road. The required setback was a minimum of 30 feet from the front. They want to set the house 14 feet from the property line. In reality, it's 18 feet from the edge of the road. The other concern we have is the road is a narrow road. It's 19 feet wide. It's not the standard 25 feet. So your views is somewhat closed in, and then that house will be closer to the house across the street versus the 30-foot setback. All the houses, when you turn onto Belle Isle Lane, including the house on the corner, which you don't show on your plat, their house faces Peninsula. The side of the house faces Belle Isle Lane. And I measured, it's 34 feet plus to 35 feet, the two corners on the side of the house to the edge of the road. So basically, they met that 30-foot setback. I think it was if you have a house on the corner, it was a 30 feet from the front or a 30 feet from the side since it's on the corner, since it faces a street. So when we built out there, the concern is they're building pads. You had to build on the building pad. And then you have your setbacks, which are two different things. So we built out there knowing where all the building pads are. where the setbacks are, where their covenants, what the covenants require, and as well as the ARC square footage. The original house that was there they did get a variance on the building pad, but not the building setbacks. And they did build within that, so basically their house was right at a little over 30 feet from the building setback and almost over 34 feet to the edge of the road. All the houses are in proximity to, they have a nice aesthetic look to it because they all flow. The concern we have, number one, so close to the road, so they want to, in reality, and I'm old school as far as setbacks. I know everything's kind of changed with from the center of the road to the right-of-way and that kind of thing. But, so they're looking to bring that house another 16 feet from where the previous house was in the past. So it's going to disrupt the aesthetics of our street is our biggest concern, which i.e. would affect your property home. I would love for that house to be built there because it's a beautiful house, it's a large house. It simply just doesn't fit the subdivision, the lot. So if I was the builder for that house, I would have pressed upon the people that they are not meeting any of those requirements. The setbacks, and the building pad as well as the covenants. And like I said, the house to the left of them is set at 35 feet from the road, 34 to 35. I set back approximately 50 feet from the road. And then the rest of the houses, they line up, you know, kind of corner to corner or within reasonable proximity. And the original homeowner did get a variance, not a county variance, but a small variance from the building pad to bring their house a little closer to the road, but it still met the setback and a little closer to the left. So they got subdivision variance for their building pad.
Okay.
I do appreciate your all's time, and honestly, I hate having to go through this and denying somebody or objecting to somebody in their dream home. It's not a pleasant experience, but it's simply just too close to the road for the aesthetics.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Rockwell. Any questions for Ms. Rockwell?
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else in opposition?
Hi, it's Bob Enos again from the HOA. I echo Ms. Rockwell's sentiment that we would love to have the Plags build a home, a beautiful home in our development. We just feel that right now this is getting rushed through. It really doesn't fit the lot. We need to do more homework, and we're willing to get together with them, with our architect, with the builder, and see if we can't figure out how to help them come up with another plan perhaps that will fit the lot.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in opposition? Would y'all like to rebut? I'll give you a couple minutes if you do.
No, sir, I think we're fine.
Okay. The discussion is now closed to the public. Gotta read our friend. The board is required to consider the following factors per section 153.052 A through F and 153.168 of the zoning ordinance. 153.052 C, 1 through 5. There are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to a particular piece of property. These conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity or that district. Because of these conditions, the application of the ordinance to a particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict use of the property. The authorization of the variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property or the public good, and character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance, and the effect of the variance will not allow the establishment of a use not otherwise permitted in the zoning district, will not extend physically a non-conforming use of the land, will not change the zoning district boundary shown on the official zoning maps, Also 153.168 setback from the lake shore. The chair would entertain a motion. You with us, Ms. Coleman?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Judges, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Hill?
I move that we deny the variance request based on the conditions do generally apply to all the other properties, and they have met within the guideline and the safety issues that have been addressed. And that is number 3. Number 2, and number 4, if we do, it will be a detriment, substantial detriment to the adjacent property.
Judge Hipp has made a motion to deny. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
From Mr. Wilks?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Second from Mr. Wilks. Any more discussion? All in favor to deny the motion signify with the uplifted hands. Unanimous. Motion is denied. Action is denied. Application is denied. Thank you, folks, everyone, for coming out. Thank y'all. Case number VA 0504-05-22, a variance request for a 70-foot front yard setback for a new 30 by 60 pole building. The property is located at 87 Isle Club Lane, Prosperity, South Carolina, tax map number 653-4-6. Ms. Wirtz, you're up again.
The residents are asking for a request of an 8-foot variance from the 25-foot front yard setback for the placement of a new 30 by 60 pole building to be 17 foot from the road right-of-way. This is due to the placement of an existing structure on the property.
Any questions for Ms. Wirtz? Thank you, ma'am. Is the red wines here?
Yes, sir. Hey, Gary Redwine, just requesting a 30 by 60 pole building. You go in the back, well, I call the back of the house, I call the lake the front of the house, but anyway, go in the back of the house. I need 30 to be able to get my truck, and I'm building it for a camper, a truck, possibly a boat. And it really doesn't affect anything the way it's laid out. It's originally a dirt road, and I just got one neighbor on this side looking at the pole building. Just got one neighbor on this side. And it's originally a dirt road. It's kind of like a paved gravel road now that I'm requesting out. And when you drive down the road, it goes like right into my property there. So I would be kind of like driving right into the garage.
This is off of Macedonia Church Road,
Yes,
isn't it?
yeah, right, Macedonia, Living Inn.
Yeah.
First road to the right.
Continue, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's it. Trying to fit the building, and like I said, I think it's 8 foot I need. It's 17 foot. Just that one corner is 17 foot. Once you go to the right this way about 10 foot, it's 25 foot from the road. So it's really like a little triangle area I need to get. And that's about it.
All right, any questions for Mr. Redwine?
The present building behind there, is that a building or trailer or something like that, or?
It's a 12 by 30 storage shed. You talking about on that shows on the plat or whatever?
I mean, I rode down in there.
Yeah.
And I saw.
Yeah,
it was-
yeah.
the
I'll be
thing was
moving.
right on the line, so I kind of
Yeah.
saw where that.
And I'm gonna be moving that. This is a 12 by 30 Leonard building or whatever you call
So
it.
that is yours?
Yeah, we put it there 25 years ago
Oh,
or
okay.
something. It got there a long time, but it's actually gonna be on the right side of where that, line is. It goes into where that building's at, about like 1 foot. So I'm gonna be moving that building out of there. I'm not gonna keep it there.
Okay. Answer your
Pretty good
question.
sized lot you had, and the way it looks, pretty good.
It's
size.
like I think it's close to half acre or something like that.
Yeah, that's a good sized lot.
Good size for being a little lake.
Yeah, it is. Any more questions for Mr. Redwine? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else speaking in favor of this application? Anyone to speak in opposition? Is anybody behind me? Yeah, she's,
No, just a lawyer.
yeah.
Sorry, no offense.
You make it sound like a dirty word.
It's been a long day.
I usually don't tell people what I do most of the time.
I understand.
Since there's no opposition, you can't reply to your opposition, so the action is closed to the public. And I got to read our friend again. The board is required to consider the following factors per section 153.052 A through F of the zoning ordinance, 153.052 C 1 through 5. There are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to a particular piece of property. These conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity or in that district. Because of these conditions, the application of the ordinance to a particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict use of the property. The authorization of the variance will not be of substantial detriment to the adjacent property or the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance, and the effect of the variance will not allow the establishment of a use not otherwise permitted in the zoning district, will not extend physically a non-conforming use of the land, will not change the zoning district boundary shown on the official zoning map, and also 153.172 lot area width setback requirements table in the zoning ordinance. Lady and gentlemen, what's your pleasure? The chair would entertain a motion.
Move it be approved.
We're gonna need a little more than that.
All right.
What's your reasons?
Why would you recommend approval on this?
As far as the variance approval criteria, these conditions do not generally apply to other properties in the vicinity or that district. These conditions, I don't think, are affected by the other property owners in that neighborhood, in that district.
Okay. Mr. Lister has made a motion to approve. I think I heard a second down there somewhere. Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise? It's unanimous. Does that satisfy Ms. Wertz? Next item of business. Thank you, folks. Case number VA 0604-05-22, a variance request for the relief of the average of the 92.5-foot setback from the 360 contour of Lake Murray to be 75 feet for the placement of a new site-built house. The property is located at 1182 Key Island Road, South Carolina, tax map number 538-1-12. Ms. Wertz.
The homeowners are requesting a variance for the relief of the 92.5-foot setback from the 360 contour of Lake Murray to be 75 feet from the 360 contour for the placement of their new site-built house. The location of the septic tank per DHEC would not allow the house to be placed in the required setbacks.
Okay, thank you. This is what your request you just read there, Mr. bear with me for a minute. This was left out of my package, or either I don't see it. Who are they?
The applicants.
Maybe I do have it. I'm sorry.
We got you back. Andrew and.
Is it Foltz?
Full.
Foltz?
Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Andrew Foles. We had gone back and forth with some information to try to get the setback to put the house where we could, and we've gone through DHEC and gotten a permit for engineered septic to do it. And we just need to get that to put the house in there with the septic. We had thought we had everything squared away, but I think there was some of the information on the drawings or the numbers on the GIS wasn't corresponding to what we had, so that's why we ended up to come for the variance. I think we've gone back and forth with our architect and the county a little bit, and then realized that we need to come for variance.
Okay.
So that's really in a nutshell. The lot is kind of tight, and there's a well at the top, so to juggle everything, and that's where we ended up. The engineer drew in the septic and went through DHEC and got everything approved based on that information, and then come back to, when we went to get the building permit, we did need to end up with a variance. So that's.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Foles?
I just want to be clear, are you saying that DHEC has approved the septic tank?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Coleman. Any more questions for Mr. Foles? Thank you, Mr. Foles.
Thank you.
Anyone speaking in favor of this application? You got the floor, sir.
Matt Gilpin, Gage Construction. Just for sake of transparency, I'm the contracted builder for this lot and for Mr. and Mrs. Foles. Not quite aware of the information that you have in front of you in reference to this lot, but to reiterate what Mr. Foles stated, the objective is to meet the minimum setbacks to the lake of 75 feet. We would like to have that additional square footage within our drainage field. Ms. Coleman, as you had asked, the DHEC has approved engineered septic system. As you're aware, with septic systems and DHEC requirements, we're required to have a 50% repair field as well. The movement of this house will facilitate that additional square footage that's needed for that repair field. Right now, it would be a little too tight with where the house sits, as the requirements are stated earlier with the average of the two adjacent homes. I don't think that's going to allow for that septic field to work properly and to meet all the requirements of DHEC. So by moving the house back to 75 foot would allow for that additional repair field to be obtained and achieved. I'm not sure how DHEC approved it without that additional square footage, but nonetheless, that's where we're at. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Gilman? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else to speak in favor? Sir?
Good evening. I'm Robert MacArthur. We live at 1186 Key Island Road, right next door to the property in question. I think this home will be an asset for our neighborhood. I think it's going to be a very, very nice property. Where if they move it forward, I don't think it will influence any of the views that we have. I would recommend that you approve this. I have no objection to it. I think it'll be an asset for our community.
Any questions for Mr. MacArthur? Thank you, Mr. MacArthur. Anyone else speak in favor?
No, I'm just here to observe.
Okay.
That's how I learn.
I can't see you, so I have to lean over.
I just asked her if she would like to talk in favor.
Anyone in opposition? There's no one in opposition, so you can't reply to the opposition. So the case is closed to the public. And I got to read our friend again. You would think I would know it by now. The board is required to consider the following factors per section 153.052 A through F and 153.168 of the zoning ordinance. 153.052 C, 1 through 5. There are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to a particular piece of property. These conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity or in that district. Because of these conditions, the application of the ordinance to a particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict use of the property. The authorization of the variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property or the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance, and the effect of the variance will not allow the establishment of a use not otherwise permitted in the zoning district, will not extend physically a non-conforming use of the land, will not change the zoning district boundary shown on the official zoning map, and 153.168 setback from the lake shore. Lady and gentlemen, what's your pleasure? The chair would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve based on number one, extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property. It's also heard by Mr. Robert MacArthur as well. It's not a detriment to the adjacent property as well.
Thank you, Judge Randall. Judge Randall has made a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I second that motion.
Randall has made a motion, and Judge Hipp is second. Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That was an aye, wasn't it?
Aye.
Aye, okay. All opposed likewise. The motion carries, the application is approved.
30 days.
Thank you, 30 days, yeah. 30 days, right, Ms. Wertz? You gotta wait 30 days. There's a 30 days grace appeal period. I hope that's the last item. Thank you. Next scheduled BZA meeting is May the 3rd, 2022 at 5:30 PM. Ms. Bridget, do we have any business scheduled already?
Yes.
Thank you, folks, for coming out.
Thank you.
Any comments from Ms. Bridget, Ms. Wertz, Mr. Ron, Ms. Laura? No?
Ms. Nichols, I meant no disrespect.
I know you didn't, I was giving a former client told me that they knew what happened to all the snakes in Ireland and they came over here as attorneys, so I just learned to, start wearing garlic and crucifixes maybe. No offense taken.
Thank you.
Thank you. The chair would entertain the final motion.
Well, I think we all need clarification on this. I understood the abbreviated lecture I got, if you don't mind.
So,
Yeah, how did,
in case we will, that first case takes us to court, we need to have our reasons documented, because if we don't go, if somebody takes us to court and we don't have these 5 reasons clearly stated why we are in agreement or disagreement, it's going to get kicked right back out. So we need, as a board, to make sure that we can answer all 5 of these to reflect our motion.
did we do that sufficiently
Yes
tonight?
and no. We have to discuss all 5. So it not just, one can't just make your opinion. You have to be able to answer all 5 in favor or in disfavor.
I should have presented all five and.
Yes, sir.
And asked for,
Present one and stop.
No, we need to go through all 5.
yeah, but one and stop and discuss it.
That's right. So how, going forward, if we can, when you outline these 5 findings and facts, you'll read 1, there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to a piece of property. We need to have a reason why or a reason why it does not. For number 2, we need to have a reason why or why not. It needs to be all 5.
We're on the same page.
And Miss Bridget, and this is coming from some legal advice that we have received. Right now, we have been applying the answers for you on the application that
Yeah, I
you
tried to
get.
stay away from that tonight.
Going forward, you will not have that. To be able to complete the packet for Miss Bridget to get your signature at the end, after the 30 days, we have to have a stated legal reason to all 5 findings and facts, and she's gonna have to write those down and fill out that form after the meeting. So we have to be able to say for all 5 reasons why we agree or why we do not agree.
But a lot of them
Well, yes,
are fairly easy
A
because
lot of it's gonna be yes or no.
extenuating circumstances.
But we just need to make that
Clear.
clear so that if, I hope we never end up in a courtroom, but if we do, we have all of our evidence ready to present.
We have, and that's why we do have the 5 now. We didn't have those then.
So this meeting I knew was gonna be, it kind of was,
Learning.
a learning curve, but going forward, we've got to make sure as a board that we can answer all of those, either why you're making the motion to approve or why we're gonna disapprove it, deny.
Ms. Brooks,
No.
let me be clear. I have a question. Are you asking for a motion after each one?
No, ma'am, the motion will be for the entire 5.
All right,
I see.
and sort of what she's asking, do I need to poll every member of the board on each question?
It can be a group discussion. Ty can say, and if everybody agrees with that, that can be it. Or if we have discussion, we're gonna have to work it out as a board.
So we no longer can say, we approve for the variance like number
As
1
per-
or number 4. We're gonna have to go through all 5
You
of them?
need to go through all 5. Because on our legal documents, it's 1 through 5, we can't pick and choose which one we answer. We have to answer all 5. And Bridget, you're more than welcome to.
We're gonna be here
Yeah.
a lot
If
longer.
you'll remember, guys, we had a case that went before the court, and it got thrown back, twice, because there was no.
That's why we do have
findings and
these.
facts.
But that's 1 in 3 or 4 years. It's not that often.
But it still could come. It's like a flood. It's 1 in 100 year, but it still can come. The court cases.
But it got taken care of.
But legally, as a county
It's
government
difficult.
board, we have to answer
It got
these.
thrown back twice because there were no findings and facts answered. And I'm kind of making it kind of easy, sort of, because as you answer the questions, I'm trying to write it down. As the applicant makes his case, I try to see which one of these he answers, but you guys have got to answer them all. And Ty started it when he was out. He kind of.
Oh, yeah, he did a good job.
Yeah, because and just listening to that, I knew where it was going, and I was trying to make sure that everybody,
Were you,
because, huh?
were you in the conference room the whole time?
No, I just drove up the street and I was waiting, and I thought, I'll just sit here in the conference room and wait for a good point to come in, but, that case was like,
It wasn't a good time.
well, no, and the thing is that, it was all about that septic, and that's where we're here to decide about the septic. We were only make the decision about the variance.
Right.
It didn't have anything to do about,
And I tried to know. if
right,
that-
and those, that's where those 5 criterias came into play is, did it meet those criterias for the variance that they were asking?
Well, that lake's a mess anyway. These houses are right on top of each other, these lots, and
Yeah, these,
we'll grant some narrow variances, then we won't, so we.
And that's what we need, that's one thing we got to work on. We have to work on really consistency in our decisions.
Yeah, if you're gonna answer a question, because I've been doing this for 17 years, I've been answering it for y'all, right or wrong. But if you look at a question that says there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to a piece of property, is there? Is there a septic system? Is there an existing building, existing home that a shed can't be placed? There's several things, or even more than that, that you can put there to say, yes, there is exceptional, because this is what is making me make this decision. Or no, there is nothing that is on this that can prevent them from moving it back into within the setbacks. The conditions do not generally apply to other properties in the vicinity. Once again, is the other properties in the vicinity, would you look at them, are they already developed, so they would not affect them? Or there's a lot that's not gonna be developed or hasn't been developed, so yes, it might would affect them. You got your next question, and that it goes the same way with me. I've been answering this for y'all, but that don't make it totally legal. I'm just putting it out there, and you guys were then responsible for looking at it in your packet and saying, well, I don't agree with this, or I do agree with this. So you're now responsible to answer these questions so that I can document it and put it on that order that we mailed.
So instead of me reading it like I did tonight, like it's been done in the past, we just go through it one at a time.
You need to go one.
Just kind of, yeah, just kind of stop, slow down a minute and talk amongst yourselves. And somebody say, well, yeah, well, I think it is extraordinary, exceptional pertaining to this piece of property. Or no, we've just decided no. Because there have to be, all five, have to meet all five to be approved. So if you say no on one,
Oh, okay. Can approve the question.
Okay.
In times past, you have said that you recommend or you don't recommend, is that? and I
Right
noticed the
now,
last couple of meetings that-
right now, we want this to be
Won't be
the
doing
board's
that.
decision.
Okay.
It's disapproved by staff, and that's the reason it's here.
I mean, that's right. I can't approve it because it doesn't meet ordinance, so.
Well, I didn't say, I said, approve.
I understand.
mean, recommend.
Yeah, I mean, and once we get kind of these five, getting used to answering these five, then we may have a discussion of starting to put that back in place. But right now, we, as a board, have to determine these five and make good, sound decisions.
So if we have to consider and be unanimous on all these five, and as far as if we make a recommendation to approve the variance, then this is gonna really cut down on a lot of variances that we're gonna be approving, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it would, yeah.
So we're gonna be the bad guys.
And unfortunately, that's our job.
Bottom line is enforcing the zoning
Yeah.
ordinance.
Yeah.
A lot of the zone ordinance changed, when
16.
16, when they rewrote it and stuff, it took a lot of these property that was, shrink them down some. The length.
And I know, most of you have signed up to come, to the training, and our instructor is going to hit on this again, as part of our training. So he will have, some other thoughts and suggestions that we need to start doing as well. But the biggest outtake that we have, as staff, have been given is we have to make sure that we're answering all five.
Well, Katie, are we gonna be in legal jeopardy if we've been granting all these variances real easy and then all of a sudden we clamp down on them?
If
somebody
we're
appeals it,
following,
yeah.
if we're following our five findings and facts, then we have our evidence to take to court.
And they won't use what precedents we've set before?
They have 30 days.
30, if their 30 days are over, it's over. So what we're worried about is within our 30 days.
I'm talking about previous cases where we granted all these
They're
variances.
done.
30 days.
Okay.
Statute limitation.
Yeah.
Very narrow one.
It would probably be a good idea to kind of really concentrate on this while you're at home looking through your packet. You're gonna get that sheet, and it's gonna be blank. Look at it and write something in it, because we're not gonna get it from you, but we're gonna write the information down. This way you don't take 10 minutes to look at it.
And you know, I heard Mr. Patrick say he had been out to ride by.
Yeah, I noticed
As a
that
board,
too.
y'all have
I
all
went to
right
all.
to go and put your eyes on these properties and really look at what's going on out there.
That's the reason I asked the chairman about,
Yeah.
two of them was combined, and
Yeah.
I got where you got to do each one separate. Yes, I did. Both of them was, a lot of them was small lots, and
Yeah.
so, a lot of them already has this and
I
stuff.
think that's a great idea. If I'm in order, can I get, the written copy of the,
The
I guess
packet
the
or the
request
rule?
that we received?
This.
Can I get a hard copy?
You want a hard copy of the findings and the facts?
No, of what we're going to be looking
The
at.
packet? Yes, ma'am, we
Yes.
will, yes, ma'am. Just let us know that you want a hard copy and we'll make copies of that for you.
Okay, and I would like that. Do I need to do, what else do I need to say?
Just call us, when you get that email, just give us a call.
Okay, I will. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I wanted a hard copy as well, Ms. Coleman, and I'll stop by the office and pick mine up before the meeting. This time. I don't know where to, is that the camera up there? Yeah. I don't think she heard me, but that's okay.
Let's motion to leave.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We're adjourned.
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Coleman, can you still hear me?
Yes,
Would you kindly give me a call in about a half hour?
I don't know if I have your number.
Well, that's the second time we've had a good night with a lot of discussion, tough decisions.
Can you hear me, Ms. Coleman?
Yes,
803?
From your perspective.
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
513?
Would you have,
We're all in a learning curve right now.
Okay,
would you have done anything
2483.
different from what we did?
okay, that's 513-24